Hey guys, now we have a much better understanding of why Kaceytron was so upset. She was very, very upset because at the time she was going through probably her first legal invoice. A lot of updates on this case, and it does not look like it will settle. Ethan Klein has said that he does not intend to settle, and it's not really up to Kaceytron, right? It's the plaintiff that has the leverage when it comes to initial settlement negotiations. So on September 22nd, there's certificate of service. This is not a big one. This is just so they know that the lawsuit is beginning. And then on September 23rd, there is the joint proposed scheduling order by TED Entertainment. This is what Ethan Klein would like the schedule to be. It is joint proposed because both sides, both lawyers talk about it, and we will see the timeline. Interestingly enough, if you guys are want to learn more, we can compare the two timelines. Remember, both Kaceytron and Denons have the same law firm. Now, Kaceytron has an additional law firm, but that law firm is only basically existing to allow the other law firm in California to practice law in Missouri. So here is certificate of service of discovery. The undersigned certifies that on September 22nd, 2025, copies of defendant Casey Conovis' response to plaintiff TED Entertainment, Inc. first set of requests for production of documents, defendant Casey Conovis' response to plaintiff TED Entertainment, set of requests for admission, and defendant Casey Conovis' responses to plaintiff TED Entertainment's first set of interrogatories were served on counsel for plaintiff TED Entertainment. So it goes both ways. In discovery, interrogatories go both ways, plaintiff and defendant. Probably not much to discuss in that case. It's just notification, service. The only time that really becomes an issue is if your name is Froggen and you're trying to dodge service, right? Otherwise, this is very par for the course. Yes, I received the documents. Did you receive my documents? Yes. Okay, let's get to work. Joint proposal, scheduling order, and discovery plan. The court having reviewed the parties' proposed litigation schedule and federal rules of civil procedure hereby establish the following deadlines in this matter. The parties shall adhere to these deadlines absent an order from the court providing for any modification. There is a trial date set for December 14th, 2026 for 8:30 a.m. for 7 days. Now, interestingly enough, remember, Denon's trial date is earlier. We can take another look at it to confirm, but I'm pretty sure it is earlier. In addition, it was only supposed to be 5 days. This one could be 7 days. There's supposed to be telephone conferences, dispositive motions, summary judgment with the local rules, and this is an actual lawsuit. Like, at what point in time does Kaceytron realize she is being sued? And you might be like, oh, well, of course, when the papers are delivered to her dad. I would say that it doesn't get real until, like, you see this document. This document has dates. As a lawyer, there's motions to amend pleadings or add parties. Once you see this document, you realize, oh shit, this is getting real. Because before this document comes, there is the potential for settlement. Kaceytron did offer $17,000-ish to Ethan Klein to settle. Ethan Klein obviously rejected that amount. Somebody in the comments actually made an interesting comment, and it was, hey, that was just probably the money left over. So she paid her lawyer, so she had a GoFundMe. She paid her lawyers, and then that was the money she had left. So she thought she could get out of this scot-free, essentially using her donor's money, right? So again, she is guilty, in my opinion, of copyright infringement. What a life it would be if you could raise $40,000, $50,000, offer, pay your lawyers, and then offer Ethan Klein the remaining amount of money from your GoFundMe. That would be the best case scenario for Kaceytron, right? By far. Now, of course, Ethan Klein declined it because he does have a much stronger case. and statutory means that it would be $150,000 if they find high levels of intent. Once you start seeing dates, so you could actually make the argument the first time it gets real is when you get your legal invoice, and that's when your lawyer has done enough to eat up his retainer. The first time it's going to get real for Kaceytron is when she has to spend her own money. Up until this point, we know that she has not spent her own money based on if that comment is true. I think it is probably true. She did spend a chunk of money, but the chunk of money was from the GoFundMe. And that would have been the perfect resolution for her: commit copyright infringement, raise money for GoFundMe, and then resolve it from the money raised. Unfortunately, Ethan didn't want to play that game. Like, this is real. There's dates, there's times you have to be at certain locations, there's phone numbers, which I've blanked out here, where you have to call. Like, once you see the scheduling, it is now a real thing, because there are certain times and places that you have to be. It's no longer you go stream whenever you want. No, you gotta be in court early in the morning. If you're not in court, you're gonna lose, and it's gonna look bad. The jury is going to be selected. Voir dire. These are terms that Kaceytron probably has never heard of until now, and they are very, very scary terms. So here's motion to extend, and this is assuming that everything goes according to par, which is never the case. So this lawsuit will be over sometime in December, unless it's pushed back. It will be pushed back. These lawsuits are always pushed back. My lawsuit was supposed to be resolved in a year, including trial. It was 4 years later. We didn't even go to trial. It was like the day before trial where we resolved the issue. So file any motion in Lime, file and serve witness list, and failure to list a witness may preclude the witness's testimony for any other purpose other than unanticipated rebuttal or impeachment. There is a ton of work and a ton of legal fees now. And that's why it is real, because Kaceytron is going to run out of money really fast. These lawyers that C and Denon's hired are not cheap lawyers. They are very expensive lawyers, and they bill by the hour, and they are going to make sure they get their money's worth from this case. Each party shall complete the following at least 5 business days before a pre-trial conference, and then 3 business days. Prior to this, there might have been a hope in Kaceytron's mind that, hey, I'm just going to settle this thing with Ethan, give him a little bit, throw him a little change on the streets, and he'll accept it because he's Ethan. They call him the fun guy. I'm not really sure why they call him the fun guy, but they've been calling him the fun guy from now. And this is part of one of these things where, like, hey, and this is my point about Kaceytron. Kaceytron is crying and very emotional and very, like, spiritual type of individual. If her family is as dependent as her on her as the matriarch as he makes out to be, where none of them can get jobs, none of them can work, she's the only one who's getting money. Now, I think she recently got married. I do not, I don't know what that guy does for a living, but probably also jobless, if I had to take a guess from where things are going from her post. When you have that many people supporting you, you do not commit copyright infringement, because you will be sued. And it doesn't matter if it's Paramount Pictures, it doesn't matter if it's a record label. Like, copyright infringement, especially when you register the copyright, is one of the easiest things to be sued for, and it's one of the hardest things to defend against, because it's about transformative fair act. But, like, when you're blatantly just getting high and going to bathrooms and all this stuff, it's like, can you imagine people watching the Kaceytron video? And we don't need to imagine. We're going to see this in real time, where one of the key, I cannot imagine that they would not show the video, because that's the key evidence, where these 12 jury members and 2 alternative jury members, like, I don't think you guys know this, but many alternative jury members, maybe it's civil, so maybe there's only 6 of them, but there's like an alternative, right, in case one of the main jury members is like sick or dies or something bad happens to them. That alternative jury member actually does sit They just don't participate in debates until they're asked to sub in. But could you imagine just a bunch of people watching this video of Kaceytron being forced, by the way, to go to jury duty and have to watch a 7-day trial, by the way. 7 business days. Not calling about weekends. Monday through Friday, and then Monday through Tuesday. And that's assuming nothing gets delayed in trial. And they're just watching Kaceytron on weed, on high. They're not going to have a good image of her, right? They're not going to be like, wow, this is a super productive member of our society. Yeah, we got to give her the benefit of. This is why I think Ethan's pushing Kaceytron so much. He has so much leverage because he knows the main piece of evidence is going to be Kaceytron watching the Hassan nuke high. There are going to be jury members that don't like people like that. Like in Missouri, try to find 6, 12, I think it's 6 because it's civil, right? Try to find some jury members who are, against drugs. Maybe they're something bad happening to a family member with drugs and so on. Now you're watching a person copyright infringe while clearly on some type of drugs. This is a very difficult thing to do voir dire on. Voir dire, we can get to that later when it happens, is jury selection where you're like, I don't want that person. Oh, that person's going to discriminate against my client. Oh, I don't want that person. Voir dire is going to be a nightmare, not because that I'm like, oh, anti-drug. Oh, Tony's so anti-drug. No, I'm not saying this, but there are older adults. You have to understand that most people who serve as jury, like if you've ever done jury duty, I had to do it recently, a year ago. I had to participate in the selection. I wasn't selected, of course, because I'm a lawyer. But they tend to be mostly old people. I kid you not. When I was in jury selection, I'm not that young myself, but like everyone was like 60, 70 because they have time to do jury. A lot of people get out of jury duty by saying, hey, I have kids. I didn't obviously do that at the time. I have kids, or I can't speak English, or I don't want to do this, or my business is too busy. A lot of people, working professionals, don't go to jury duties because they have an excuse. And then from that selection, so I was sitting, there's like a waiting room in Houston, and you look around, it's all old people, man, because they got time. They're not going to excuse themselves. It's kind of like a fun activity that they got selected. They get a little bit of pay, not a lot of pay, but in Houston, the pays, they've increased the pay, which I think is good. Man, I mean, they are not. You're not going to be Kaceytron fans. They're not going to be Kaceytron's aides. They're going to be probably much older, in a very diverse background of Missouri citizens, watching her smoke weed. While I assume she's smoking weed, right? I don't know if she's high on something else, and while just not commenting on Ethan Klein's Hassan nuke. Hilarious. I know. I mean, I would love to see it if this goes to trial, and it's next year. So my child was a little older. I would actually go to trial to report on it. As a trial reporter. Maybe they live stream me. I would love to see their faces of these jury members and the judge. The judge has probably already watched the video, by the way, right? Because at the end of the day, what is the core thing about? It's about Kaceytron's watch party, if you will, of Ethan Klein's Hassan nuke. Like, could you imagine what the judge is thinking? Is like, holy shit, this person's on drugs, and this is her whole brand. Her whole brand is weed and being high. And there, again, I'm not saying myself, but there is a older demographic that grew up with weed being super illegal. That's probably going to be the jury members, just from a guess from my own time looking at the jury selection in Houston. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree, disagree, leave me comments below. Let's get it on, baby. We really need content, and this is content. Give this video a like and a comment if you can.